the process of nuclear disarmament will look like. In my mind, there's a conference room filled with concerned diplomats talking with technical experts and drafters, and I always have John at the table, and Alan and a few other friends, and they will be drafting a nuclear weapons convention, hopefully. We cannot know if this will materialize in the near future, but realists have envisioned and later seen nuclear weapons removed from Canada and South Africa and the Ukraine, an end to cruise missile testing in my province, the creation of nuclear weapon-free zones covering over 100 states, and significant reductions in nuclear weapons in many states. Votes in favor of disarmament resolutions are on the rise in terms of support, and we certainly would not have anticipated that the International Court of Justice would give us such a good decision on nuclear weapons. But these things have all happened, and I remain hopeful. But obviously we don't see our current crop of politicians in key states wildly appreciative of the need for rapid work towards a ban on nuclear weapons. They appear to be highly accepting of a risky, amoral situation. I'd like to give you a few ideas and a few steps that we might take. I start this proposal working from the assumption that the size of a modern nuclear weapon is so great that the use of any one of these weapons is prohibited under international law. So I've set these out in a text on a paper that is on the peacelawyers.ca site, and it is called Building Momentum Toward Nuclear Disarmament, National Legislation Creating Nuclear Weapon-Free Zones. I hope that those of us who live in states that fall outside the existing zones can start thinking about what prohibitions are needed to further ban nuclear weapons-related activities in our own country. In a second paper I've completed, I've looked at current prohibitions falling on Canadians under the Canadian Criminal Code and the Nuclear Safety and Control Act. This is wildly boring work and took about 3 years. The paper is 25 pages long. It's exceedingly dull but maybe helpful, and it is also posted at peacelawyers.ca under documents. But please know that the holes in our current legislation allow Canada to host nuclear-armed planes on our soil, nuclear-armed subs in our ports, and allow our parliamentarians, officials, and military to participate in NATO nuclear planning. Electronic information gathered by Canadian officials may be used by the U.S. to target nuclear weapons. We need to convince the Government of Canada of the immorality and illegality of participating in nuclear war and get all these activities prohibited. The third paper I would table that I literally have not brought physically is a summary of, or it's excerpts from all NATO communiques and press statements since 1999, so it's everything NATO has said publicly on nuclear weapons. It's 65 pages long, and it too is at peacelawyers.ca. In Canada, any action proposed that would jeopardize Canadian participation in NATO activities is considered very threatening to the government and to many members of the public, and so I will go on to a further proposal. If we are faced with little likelihood of prohibition of these activities by the federal government, I propose we try to build momentum by working through different levels of government. In Canada, we have created by declaration many municipal and provincial nuclear weapon-free zones, but I sense discouragement among activists at the absence of results flowing from these declarations. At best, some cities maintain a sign on their boundaries. More often, the nuclear weapon-free zone status is viewed contemptuously as some form of absurd type of building security. Could we, though, work locally to strengthen these zones? Their municipality in Tacoma Park, Maryland, has passed an ordinance which prohibits the production of nuclear weapons in the city of Tacoma Park. It also stops the city from purchasing or leasing products produced by a producer of nuclear weapons, or from granting any award, contract, or purchase order to a nuclear weapons producer. So we might want to consider those sorts of legislative options in Canada as well. Finally, another sort of a informal legislative option has been proposed by the Weapons of Mass Destruction Commission chaired by Hans Blix, in their recommendation 50, they say states, international organizations, and professional associations should encourage the appropriate academic and industrial associations to adopt effectively implement codes of practice and codes of conduct for science and research in weapons of mass destruction relevant fields. I believe that the international group INASAP has done some work in this area, and we heard Saturday at a pugwash meeting from an official with the Canadian Commission for UNESCO that UNESCO is also working on codes of conduct. So if you're interested in that, you might want to be in touch with them. We should think also about challenging ourselves to contacting the professional associations and encourage them to incorporate language prohibiting work of this type. Again, this would give us an opportunity for public education through discussion. Thank you for your attention.